Welcome to the Daily Technology Pulse podcast by Daily Computers, your expert technology partners for public and private sector organizations throughout Maryland and Virginia. This episode is brought to you by Extreme Networks, keeping the public safe and the network of safety officials strong and trusted. And now your host, Rick from Daily.
So, funny story. You know how sometimes you plan a podcast episode and then the guests show up and they're so good that you just let them cook? That's what's going on today. What we're officially calling, and yes, I'm putting this on the record, the Extreme Takeover. The team from Extreme Networks has essentially walked into our studio, set up shop, and said, "We've got this, Rick." And honestly, I'm not mad about it, not even a little, because what that means for me is I get to sit back, wrap my hands around a very good cup of coffee, and listen to people who are significantly smarter than me talk about technology that actually matters for the schools, cities, and government organizations that Daily serves every single day. So consider this my formal, enthusiastic surrender. The mic is yours. I'll be over here learning things, drinking coffee, living my best life. Ladies and gentlemen, the team from Extreme Networks, take it away.
Thank you, Rick. Happy to be here. We're excited to be here and working with Daily for this session. And with me today, we have Byron Hall. Byron is our Director of System Engineering for the Mid-Atlantic states. Welcome, Byron. We have Clint Radwani, who is the account manager for Maryland and Virginia, and he handles most of our accounts in those two states. And we have Scott Pullman, who's our director of strategic partner accounts. And Scott is on the call because he is a resident SME on anything audiovisual. And we're finding a lot of things with audiovisual are encompassing the networks as we grow today, and thought he'd be great to be part of this discussion. Yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. We kind of encompass, if you talk to any administrator at any school district, any county government, city government, state government, they're all talking about putting in not really roadblocks, but guardrails for what they're implementing with AI. And I saw a survey last week that there's been 469 or 467 bills written in the United States at the state level just this past month to control the expansion of AI. So everyone's kind of looking at everything from a different lens. And today we're going to kind of go into a couple of scenarios in county, city government, and state government from our perspective on what we're seeing, things that are happening, and how administrators can kind of look at it from not only the lens that they're currently looking at it, but maybe a new perspective to eliminate some of the roadblocks and issues that are bubbling up. The majority of our business is in the SLED space. We understand some of the issues that are and problems that SLED space is having, and that's where we're kind of moving forward, trying to address it in this kind of a conversational way. So with that, I'll kind of kick this off and welcome to today's discussion. Today's discussion we're calling Has Your AI Gone Rogue? Balancing connectivity, security, and responsible oversight. As most of you know, across state and local government, AI and intelligent automation are no longer emerging concepts. They're actively reshaping how agencies deliver public safety, citizen services, education, and core operations. And if you look at the latest NASCIO top 10 priorities, NASCIO is the National Association of State CIOs, and they put out a top 10 priority list every year. Cybersecurity, digital government, data governance, workforce, and modernization. Those are all their priorities. AI sits directly at the intersection of all of them. At the same time, we're seeing rapid convergence across environments where historically there were separate cloud, core networks, IoT, smart facilities, and increasingly audio-video systems operating over IP on the primary network. This convergence creates real opportunity for efficiency and improved outcomes, but it also quietly expands the attack surface and introduces new governance and visibility challenges, particularly for resource-constrained local governments. Today's conversation is all about how public sector leaders can balance innovation with control and ensure increasingly intelligent infrastructure remains aligned with the mission they need and the public trust. So with that, I'm going to engage our panel and ask a few questions and get some different perspectives. And as you heard from the titles that I mentioned earlier with my esteemed panel, we have a very interesting group of panel that have very different backgrounds and different perspectives. So I'm going to start with Byron, if you don't mind. Byron, I'm going to ask you the first question here. As AI becomes embedded in networks, cloud platforms, and shared services, how can cities and counties prevent technology sprawl while still enabling innovation?
Excellent question. And when you were reading through your previous comment, lots of things were coming to mind. One thing in particular is some conversations I've been having with several from a state perspective as well as a higher ed perspective. We have in these organizations, which are medium to large to very large organizations, we have multiple silos that we've operated in. Something you've said about convergence of technologies and convergence of AI or AI being used in those converged technologies, brought to mind education and purpose. So these different silos at times have the overall organization has a mission. The different silos within that mission usually have their own objectives. Sometimes there's communication breakdown between those silos, and that's I think a very important part is how do we, one of the themes you talked about in ASIO, one of the themes is legacy modernization as an ongoing theme there. And, bringing your aging systems, which is a problem that, no matter what your organization is, if it's of any size, you can't upgrade everything all at once. You don't have the staff or the funding and that kind of thing. But so how do you prepare, and how do you, when these things don't all happen at the same time, how do you bring that together? Now, tying that in with AI, every system has AI embedded in it. And if you talk to a security team, the default stance is stop it. I don't want it. Because
that's true.
I can't, the security team, their job is to secure things. And if I don't understand it, I don't secure it. Helping your organization move forward, it has really education and intent, understanding what the purpose of AI for your specific purpose allows them to communicate to the security teams and to the organization at large on how that can actually be a part of things. So it may boil down to education and communication between the teams of how to bring that together. It's not a very technological answer, but the as Scott and I were talking about with the customer yesterday, the operational pieces are paramount.
Yeah, I would say a lot of those, that convergence, and you hit the nail on the head. Typically, the security department doesn't really work with the IT department and vice versa.
Right.
But now they're absolutely having to do that because of all of the different infrastructure growth issues that are bubbling up. So I'm happy to see it going along those lines, and I'm also happy to see some of the cybersecurity frameworks that the states are putting in place to help them have a menu to navigate as they start to do that. So we talked in my opening a little bit about some of these bills and these different initiatives that states are trying to move forward. And Clint, if you don't mind, I'm going to move on to you. And my question really is, when we talk about these regional and statewide interoperability standards that are being written and kind of probably put together as more of a POC than anything else to kind of ensure that they've covered all the bases. Do you think that these standards should be encouraged to help local governments deploy AI consistently and securely, especially when they're relying upon multiple vendors? You got your network vendor, you got your firewall vendor, you've got your security vendors, you got all the different vendors that are in there, and they all say AI has a piece of their offering. How are you, when you're dealing with a lot of your customers and they're asking you those questions, what is coming up as the initiatives that the states, the counties, and the cities are trying to do?
Very excellent question, Brian. I believe that regional and statewide interoperability standards are essential. They're critical. And a lot of that revolves around the teams that we encounter in the SLED space are small, and they typically can't manage the patchwork of a vendor-specific AI system. I think that common standards would ensure consistency amongst, data handling, accountability, and overall IT security within whether it's a local jurisdiction or a statewide agency. And all of our customers are piling on the AI perspective on their existing frameworks, which historically haven't existed, and whether it's the traditional NIST frameworks, your SIEGES, your HIPAA, PCI, all of these different requirements that we see within the SLED space, and oftentimes all in the same organization. They all have the ability to be audited against all of those frameworks. And I think that, the NIST AI risk management framework is really foundational to how they should standardize on handling their AI within their organization or institution. I'm seeing that pop up a lot. I mean, naturally, we sell AI in our product line, but so does, every sector within IT. And how are they going to handle tool sprawl? How are they going to handle the governance, the data sharing, and as the title of the podcast states, how are they going to handle it going rogue?
Right.
And it's definitely top of mind for all of these organizations.
Yeah, you bring up a really important point. These security frameworks like NIST, CSF, SIEGES, GovRAMP, all those, they've been around for a while. Now, GovRAMP is just starting to be adopted, but all the other ones have been kind of in place, like NIST 853 at the state level. But they've been implemented and deployed, but they haven't really been enforced to the level that those of us that spend a lot of our time in compliance thought that they would. And so it seems to me that a lot of those frameworks are now being looked at to create the Bible, right, or create the checklist for what the counties and cities need to go through to ensure that they're compliant. How are you seeing that being adopted, number one? And number two, do you think that there are any gaps in some of those frameworks that are currently out there?
Yeah, I can't. How it's adopted, weirdly enough, is a lot of the localities that I traverse in all the states. I see that their adoption on the state level has always been taken more seriously, and that the state agencies oftentimes protect themselves from their localities. They're traditionally more compliant to the frameworks, and whether it's a Department of Health or whatever that would have a presence across statewide county localities, oftentimes they treat the counties, cities as not trusted entities where they interface one organization to another. And to speak to your point, I think it's because a lot of these frameworks, while well adopted at a state level, are nice to have at the county and city level oftentimes. So I believe them acting in an untrusted manner, it is a good best practice for them to have, as I'm seeing it. And I would think, to address your specific question about the gaps, I would think that the gaps are the lack of compliance and enforcement in cities and other localities.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I don't know if, when SIEGES first came out and they started adopting that, and they had the FBI certified auditors coming in for the police department SIEGES networks, it was very, very robust when it first came out. But then over time, it kind of, some counties did it, pretty regularly and were very on top of it. Other ones, not so much. But I really think that with the adoption of the cybersecurity initiatives and then AI being part of that whole concept that people have to think about, that the the auditability and the enforcement of the audits will probably become much more robust in coming years, don't you think?
I think absolutely. And I would think that the industry is going to produce tools and leverage AI to produce artifacts that are associated with the audits. Any audit I've been in whilst working for a locality, always, do you adhere to these standards? Yes or no? We answered the question as the locality, but there's also proof in the pudding. Like, they want to see your configurations, they want to see your best practices, and oftentimes that's a lot of work for any organization. It doesn't even have to be a state and local government. So I would think that AI is going to be used to produce artifacts associated with audits to help ensure compliance.
Absolutely. Well said, Clint. Hey, so let's shift gears a little bit here and go into a slightly different topic. And this is not a topic that we as networking guys have talked about exclusively, but with Scott on the phone, let's take a deeper dive here, because Scott knows this space much better than any of us do. So Scott, let's talk about audio visual systems and smart facilities and AI-enabled analytics. They're increasingly operating on the primary network. How should these cities and counties rethink their segmentation, visibility, and ownership to avoid creating new blind spots when they're adding the AV pieces of this overall puzzle?
Brian, that's a really great question. And I think I want to emphasize one word you said there: ownership. I think that most of these entities need a shift around ownership. These formerly isolated AV building, security, and analytics systems converge onto the primary network. IT departments need to shift the narrative from owning the data infrastructure to owning the data and the processes that govern all that movement. The job's really not longer about controlling ports and boxes, but it's more about ensuring that the services riding on top of the fabric, media transport, automation workflows, AI analytics, facility operations, have predictable performance, clear policies, secure access, and lifestyle governance. I want to say, though, that this ownership cannot really occur in a vacuum or through top-down decree. Effective governance requires clear communication and genuine collaboration between the network engineering and the service owners. Media, facilities, security, all the others have to ensure that their needs and constraints are understood on both sides. It's become clear to me, though, that the biggest gap today, bigger than infrastructure or policy, is visibility and documentation. Too often, system information is siloed, inconsistently shared, or lost entirely during staff turnover. Every entity should make system archival and documentation a priority. Establish a consistent centralized repository for configurations, diagrams, addressing schemes, media flow requirements, and operational procedures. Strong documentation and shared visibility are what enable effective management, faster troubleshooting, and reliable recovery after unforeseen events. I also like to mention that in my experience, the most successful deployments were those where I worked closely with the network team, helping them understand why certain parameters were required and how media network behavior differs from traditional IT traffic. There are absolutely scenarios where a parallel spine leaf media network is still the correct architecture choice. Forcing latency-sensitive applications onto the main network just because of an arbitrary policy doesn't help anyone succeed and often creates more risk than it removes. Blind spots are removed by open dialogue, documentation, and understanding.
That was well said, Scott. Awesome. Put it all in a nutshell. Hey, in my experience, it's because I'm mostly a public sector, public safety kind of guy. The whole AV thing has really kind of taken off in the public safety space from corrections, from courts, from all those different departments and connecting that and that has created some really interesting scenarios. So in public safety and emergency operation environments, what do you think are the new risks that emerge when video walls, sensors, AI analytics, core networks become very tightly integrated?
Well, when we look at these particular systems, we always need to balance operational requirements against the real-world impact. highly converged environments where video walls, sensor input, and analytics engines all depend on the shared network services, even a minor upstream issue, P2P instability, a misconfigured QoS queue, DHCP, VRF misrouting, or a simple firmware can really ripple outward and disrupt the entire operation. Legacy siloed networks, each system failed independently, while today a single failure can take down everything. IT teams in modern platforms are pushing hard towards convergence. Single sign-on, shared policies, common identity stores, the ability for users and devices to roam cleanly between departments. Public safety, emergency operations, and disaster response. This architecture shift has some real implications. Convergence improves manageability, but it concentrates risk. In my view, risk mitigation comes down to architecture. If we keep all the essential room-level services isolated on the same switch or microsegment, then even if the larger network fabric has an outage, the core functions within the operations center can continue to run. Local routing, timing, and core AV services should have a predictable, self-contained environment they can rely on, especially in these high-stakes events. When designing for these types of applications, I often end up deploying an architecture that allows an operator to completely sever the connection to the broader network while still maintaining full environmental functionality. In practice, this often means building these bases as physically parallel networks, their own core and their own services, ensuring the redundancy needed for recovery operations. I should also mention that there is a new set of security concerns that can't be ignored. Many AV and IoT devices simply don't adhere to the same encryption standards, segmentation models, or certificate requirements that core IT systems follow. This inconsistency is widespread in the AV industry, and when these devices are brought onto shared networks without proper isolation, these devices become the weak links that can expose mission-critical systems to unnecessary risk.
Well said. So that's kind of the issue with a lot of these CGIS networks that need to be 100% encrypted, but with the AV layer, they're not always along those lines unless it's segmented in such a way. Is that correct?
But and that's the problem. You know, these systems typically have been very isolated, siloed things, and now we've been poking holes in all these silos to bring these systems to give them the single sign-on, that sort of stuff, and we just haven't brought up the devices to the same level of standards.
Well, Rick, as we say, that's why we're here, to kind of solve some of those problems. So, talking about public safety, I'm gonna shift over to Byron, if you don't mind, Byron. When we're talking about cities and counties in the public safety arena, how should they think about resilience and recovery when the AI systems begin influencing not only public safety but utilities, finance, or citizen services?
That's a great question. Actually, it's timely. So I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and we had a nice little storm incident maybe a month ago, where and it was really localized because I talked to a customer who's 40 minutes away and they weren't impacted in the same way. But we had a pretty severe ice storm.
It's Nashville on ice, right?
Nashville on ice. It was something to see. I've been in cities where there have been ice storms before, and we've had ice storms in Nashville. This one took the cake. Power, about 200,000, people were out, and it's customers, not just people, but 200,000 customers, over 200,000 customers were out at one time. And it took Nashville about a week, about maybe 2 weeks to get power back to everyone. So it was a pretty significant event. So the reason I'm bringing that up is, that there was a public outcry, why weren't you ready for this? Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? So resilience and recovery, it can take a lot of different forms. AI systems, and I'm getting back to my education and communication kind of thought process. Really begins with how do we view it? Can we put it in a framework where, when I say framework, I'm not specifically thinking about an efficient framework, but can we think about AI in a way that is scalable and where we can make real-time decisions? So resiliency is are you ready for the things that are happening that we can't account for? And recovery will be a result of making the right decisions when things happen like that. So one big thing that I think about with AI that if AI goes rogue, it's not like the Matrix where the AI is going to take over everything. At least I hope not. but it could, there could be mistakes along the way where the guardrails were not set up properly, so that, and there's examples of this out there where private information can get fed to the AI, but then gets exposed to where it's not supposed to, which makes it not private anymore. Can you compartmentalize the things? Can you educate not just the IT team? Much like we treat security, right? It took us a while to really get to the point where it became normal to have security trainings for your organization. Where it's not just the job of IT and the security team, it's everyone's job. So back again to the education and communication part, we get everyone on board understanding it, everyone on board actually playing with it, with the proper guardrails. And then I believe we'll be ready for the you don't know what you don't know type of things.
Yeah, really good point there, Byron. Let me just, I'm going to kind of stay in the same question here, if you don't mind, but I'm going to shift over to Clint for just a second. Clint, in talking about what Byron just said, what level of AI understanding, and what I mean by understanding is more like training or understanding of what's happening with AI in the network and all things. What do you think should be expected of government leaders? Should they be training just their IT staff, or should they be training their entire staff? I'm thinking about ensuring responsible oversight. What's your take on that?
I would think you need to train everybody in the organization the same way they're doing, annual IT security compliance trainings. I think there needs to be specific ones regarding AI, especially when dealing in the government space, is to not expose their citizens' information to the world. Right. I mean, they could be trying to, automate a task or speed up their own workflows and inadvertently expose citizens' data through their own ChatGPT account, as an example, instead of using a company's, enterprise co-pilot for answers, where the enterprise's organizational data would be siloed, like most companies offering AI offerings protect a customer's data within the organization. People need to be trained that not all AI is the same, and what tools to use for what projects and workflows as they accomplish their position.
Yeah, it's not just the training, it's the compliance wrapped around that training, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, so staying on the same subject, let me shift gears back to Byron. I think you were probably going here anyways, and I interrupted you by bringing in Clint on that one. But I love his perspective on that. Where should local governments draw the line between automation and human oversight, particularly when AI supports decisions that are affecting the residents directly?
It's an excellent question. There's a term that we at Extreme talk about when we talk about our AI, but it's a general AI term called human in the loop. That's one piece. And that goes back to what you were initially saying about guardrails. Do you allow the AI to automatically do things that affect either data, people, or process? Or do you put in checks and balances? Or do you know to do that thing? And the point Clint made about, you're using your personal chat GPT account to do certain things, could influence that. So having a policy around, and this is something I believe a lot of organizations are in the throes of doing at the moment, what is permissible, in terms of what AIs can you use in relation to your job, and about it, going back to communication, and when there is, to Clint's point, if we have a repetition of and updating how AI works. That's actually not to go in a totally sidetrack. AI is changing so fast. No matter what we say today, will be very different tomorrow. And the AI companies are transforming as fast as their AI is as well. That's how who has access the AI has, and who can actually use AI on that information. It may change over time. A company can change its policies on your data and what it keeps and what it doesn't. Right? And most people don't. And that goes back to acceptable use of AI and communicating that with the organization.
Yeah, well said. Let me ask this question to all of you, if you don't mind. I mentioned earlier the NASCIO top 10 priorities at the beginning of the discussion. And as we know, cybersecurity and risk management has been the number one challenge for the past 12 or 14 years. Only this year it was surpassed by AI. You got digital government, data governance, workforce, legacy modernization. These all have been in the top 10 for several years now. Which of those top 10 priorities do you believe AI and intelligent infrastructure will most disrupt over the next 3 to 5 years? And do you think that the states and localities are structurally prepared to address that?
I'd like to comment. So this may be strange, but it's kind of like weight loss.
Yeah, we all need to do some of that.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you lose weight? Well, is it a pill? Maybe, or a shot. But is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it meditation? It's probably a little bit of all the above. That mixture of all the above may be different for every person. That's the weight loss thing, right? So if you look at the top 10 priorities, like you said, modernization, identity access, cloud services, that the mix of how all that gets put together, if you don't look at it all, you will fall short. And that mix really depends upon your organization's priorities and processes and people and so on and so forth. That's my 2 cents on that one.
A nice holistic approach, Byron.
Yeah, there you go.
I want to jump in here and say basically the same thing. Holistically, we need to look at the entire thing. AV is typically being treated as a siloed entity, and a lot of CIOs in these entities have no visibility into the AV system currently. And I think that process of modernization, of bringing these systems in to the CIO's preview, is really going to create the disruption. And I don't think that a lot of these entities are ready for these conversations around what that means to bring these AV systems into their purview. The other really interesting part is a lot of these systems are now running AI. And does the CIO even know that they are? So I think there's some challenges here for CIOs to actually understand these systems that are not traditional IT systems and how they infect in their systems.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking along the same lines you just described, Scott, because you hear the term legacy modernization. To some people, that just means buying some new switches and some new APs. But legacy modernization really means to be moving to a new, modernizing their entire infrastructure, including AV. And if they haven't thought all that through, like Byron said before, that's where the trouble will start.
It sure is. And I don't think a lot of CIOs even realize that they have legacy systems that they don't control. They think that, everything within the data center is under them. And there's other stakeholders within these entities that have networks that also do stuff.
Yeah.
To that,
Clint, let me move over to you for just a second, because you have a unique mix of really large counties and really small counties and cities, and of course the skill set between those two varies. How do you see this whole issue?
I was going to say that to jump in, what my colleagues are saying, I think AI is number one on the NASCO top 10 because it touches everything else. And I believe the silo that is going to be the most disruptive on is the cybersecurity silo. I think AI as a tool for an adversary is powerful, and powerful enough that people are going to have to leverage AI to defend against AI. Specifically, to tie that into your last question to me, I think it's even more pertinent for small teams to be able to do so, to leverage tools that can force multiply them, whether it's in the compliance field, or operations field, or the cybersecurity field. I think we're going to see the adoption across the board naturally on small and large localities alike, but I think it's force multiplication is going to be most pertinent to the smaller ones.
Yeah, completely agree. So piggybacking on your comment a second ago, Scott, let's just kind of take it one step further, if you don't mind. If we're talking about education and citizen engagement environments that depend really heavily on AV, they also depend heavily on hybrid infrastructure. How can the agencies balance that modernization benefit with the need for consistent security governance? And that security governance can be different in each county, city, and jurisdiction that we're selling into.
I think it's recognizing that there's other systems at play within the organization that have other things. And it's about having the conversation with stakeholders within your own organization saying, what do you need to be able to survive? And then bringing those systems under your purview. AV is not scary. It's unfortunately just being driven from a period of isolationism from many years. And it can coexist on the main network without much of a problem. It just needs a break around how we talk about it. And I think AV itself can actually benefit from the security and from the services that the main network provides. It's just about getting together and actually having a frank and honest conversation.
Yeah, well said. So let's kind of talk about the title of our session here today. Has your AI gone rogue? And what does and I'm going to ask all three of you. You can each jump in and tag team the answer if you'd like. What does a rogue AI scenario look like at the local level? And I'm thinking misinformation, biased service delivery, financial errors, or public safety impacts. How can the agencies prepare effectively?
Well, I got a good example for you right here with this one, Brian. So do you know that a lot of audio vendors are actually now introducing AI into their offerings? So what we're doing is we're actually taking audio from the conference room, sending it up to the cloud, processing it, and then returning it to the conference room for either reproduction in the speakers or translation services. Well, how do you know that AI is actually being managed by the cloud and staying there? Is that stuff actually secure? Is that vendor, that third-party vendor, actually doing data security on that. You've now got a recording of what everything goes in that room, going out, leaving the room. How secure is that? So the rogue AI at that point is all around security. Is that vendor, who typically isn't even known to the CIO, are they being audited to the same standard as the data network?
Right.
It's a really big security hole.
I love the lens that you look at things through, Scott, because it's not a lens that guys like Byron and I historically have looked through, and it adds a new perspective for us.
And I think that's the whole thing about AV and networking is, for so many years, AV has been an isolated activity, and I think AV needs to come into some of the same management structure as corporate IT, sorry. And I think we can all benefit from it.
Agree. Hey, so let's move over to Clint for a sec. Hey, so Clint, the same question on the rogue AI scenario. Which one do you see as being something that counties and cities really need to look for so it doesn't bubble up and bite them?
Well, I think there needs to be, and I'm sure it's coming down the road as your example of the 600 something legislative laws that have been passed in the last month at the state level. But in the same way that
470, but 600 is good.
Oh, okay, 170. I believe that the level of trust, the old term that I experienced in networking, oftentimes when you dealt with service providers, we would deal with, and this was true on the federal space a lot, we would deal with interconnections service agreements. And we would put a little bit of, liability on third parties. Well, not a little bit. We would put actual liability on third parties for data protection. And I think that a lot of, whether they're service providers, infrastructure providers, to piggyback off of Scott's example, the cloud provider of the video, they're going to have to assume risk for customers' data and provide assurances for that. So I think formal liability agreements are going to need to be legislated if they're not already, since I naturally haven't read the 170 legislative changes that have come about.
I came up with a term the other day. I call it chain of custody for data. At some point, we need to be able to hand that data off to another vendor and say, you now have custody of it. And the responsibility for that data at that point shifts from me over to you.
Yeah, it's the same thing that these localities utilize from a law enforcement perspective when they're dealing with actual evidence. Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, so guys, looking ahead, I don't know, let's say 3 to 5 years from now, what is the one AI or intelligent infrastructure risk that you believe state and local leaders may be underestimating? And I know, Clint, you said that cybersecurity was probably number one. I think it probably will remain the number one, although I think more money is being put into compliance on the cybersecurity side than some of the other areas. But what area do you see that the listeners to this podcast should be paying attention to that could really bubble up in the next 3 to 5?
I personally think modernization is a big one. We're usually, and to your point earlier, Brian, modernization doesn't mean just upgrade your stuff. Don't get, we're Extreme Networks, and we of course want you to upgrade your stuff. However, if you are not thinking about all the things that we're talking about today, educating your organization, the convergence of AV, security, and networking together, and what impacts does all that have together, and how should your organization change from a thought process and a priority perspective that's unique to you, to be ready for these things. One example, we were talking earlier about organizations like state level states typically, double down on these frameworks and compliances. But if you look at K through 12, they may not. There can be mandates from the state to the counties to do certain things, but they are right now. My experience, and I of course could be wrong, is that K through 12s are reactionary. My neighbor county got hacked, so what do? I start talking to people more about security. So understanding, and I think that the NIST AI risk management framework Clint brought up earlier, is a great place to start understanding and preparing yourself. They talk about trustworthiness and how do you define safe, fair, reliable, things like that, right? So getting your organization ready is, I think, if you don't do it, it will catch up to you and you'll be more reactionary.
Agreed.
I also think there's a place, just not even talking about hardware, but about operations and looking at the way your procedures are in place. If you have a guy coming in every day and clicking a light switch to open a door, is it an AI, and you want to take AI to do that? Is there a risk for that procedure to be done by AI? And there's some of that AI level, the base level functionality that I don't think is talked about enough.
Right on target, Scott. So we've covered a lot of issues today, and I thank you all of the panelists for bearing with me on some of these questions, but I wanted to cover a lot of space, and we covered a lot of space in a very short period of time. But if you look across the SLED landscape right now, the real story isn't just AI adoption. It's the rapid convergence of AI, cloud, IoT, and increasingly AV and smart facility systems onto the primary network. That convergence is delivering real operational value, particularly in public safety, education, and citizen engagement. But it's also expanding the attack surface and creating new gray areas around visibility, operation, ownership, and accountability. The jurisdictions that will lead over the next few years are the ones that treat this not as a tool discussion, but as architecture, governance, and risk management challenge that spans the entire digital ecosystem. Those of you listening to this podcast, thank you so much for your time. All of us at Extreme Network appreciate your listening.
And that is why I let them take over. Wow. A huge thank you to the Extreme Networks team. You came, you saw, you absolutely conquered. I learned something, and on a podcast I host, that's actually kind of saying something. If anything you heard today made you think, I need to know more about this, and let's be honest, it should have, reach out to the team at Daily. We are your local experts on everything Extreme Networks. We know your market, we know your challenges, and unlike me, the folks who actually will talk to you can answer your follow-up questions without Googling anything. Now, all you need to do is go to daily.com, go to the contact page, you can fill out a form, you can call us, you can email us, and be sure to tell them that the podcast sent you. They'll know what that means. That's going to wrap things up for this episode. We'll see you next time on the Technology Pulse, where occasionally I just show up to introduce people smarter than me and drink coffee. Apparently that's a job now, and I'm fully committed to it.
And that wraps up another insightful episode of the Daily Technology Pulse podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Before we sign off, we want to take a moment to remind you of some important legal considerations. The views and opinions expressed by guests on the Daily Technology Pulse podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Daily Computers or its partners. The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of Daily Computers. Inc. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at www.daily.com. The Daily Technology Pulse podcast will be back with more exciting discussions on the latest in technology. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected.